Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this video with a special topic very dear to my heart, and I'm sure to a lot of your hearts. So, what is the path of a divine lover? And there's so much to talk about here, so this means I could ramble on forever and ever, because it's a very interesting topic of this masculine life force moving out in the feminine, which are, masculine is the essence of time, and the feminine is the essence of space, and together they create all life in creation, which is time and space. So if you imagine the center, the middle point of the vortex, and then a masculine energy expands and goes outwards, and the feminine pulsates around, it's almost like it's creating these waves, pulsates like a sacred galaxy, and the movement together with the expansion of the solar burst and the creation of the galactic pulsation, which is the feminine concept of life in creation, they create this unity aspect. And so when we talk about this path of the sacred inner alchemy of the sacred divine reunion, that's what we're talking about. So why did I title this video The Path of a Divine Lover? It's because I myself, on my path, I am a divine lover. What does this mean? So as you know, when I share my teachings, when I share the wisdom that penetrates through me, this wisdom comes from the realms of illumination, which means it's not my own, it's not just coming from my experiences, but the experiences in my life trigger me to have that awakening of the cosmic divine remembrance of the memory that is already engraved within my light DNA. So I came here to share this, but the path of how I share it lies within the divine reunion of being an illumined twin soul. So we're all twin souls in our essence. That's how we all burst out of the creation. And if you watched my twin soul and divine reunion video playlist on YouTube, you see I have a lot of videos on this topic. But this video will be particularly special because I managed to incorporate a lot of this, what this path means for an awakened illumined being, because you can have twin soul essences and you can have these counterparts, but illumined twin souls, they actually share their path as divine love in order to awaken those who are ready to awaken to the truth of their being. So as you know, at this time Mars and Venus are conjunct, and this is a special reunion time. And this relationship energy we are now moving into is bringing lots of this divine remembrance back to us. And it's how we are now starting to awaken to who we truly are. And for a lot of us, we're really realizing that this is who we are. This is our path. So when people come and they interact with me and they see what I share, whether videos or writings or my pages that I have, many times they reference me as a teacher. But the teaching stayed with me is just a part of my multidimensional nature. I actually am an illumined one, which means that all of my soul essence is integrated. So I'm not in particularly a teacher or just a guide or anything like that. In the past, as I was moving through this divine remembrance state, I did reference myself, and that's just a part of the essence that I associated with and integrated on that level. But a path of a divine lover is a path of just embodying divine love, the Christed love and illuminated union of your twin soul spark. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to live it in the physical, to be physical coupledom and partnership. It means that you yourself have activated and integrated this in your life, and you're living it. You're actually living as the embodiment of divine love. And I'm going to share about this further when I'm going to give you some of the examples of this path and my own examples of how I live my life on this path. And for a lot of you, probably there will come instant memory that this is you as well. This is you in this path. Of course, it's individualized, it's unique, it's always is this way. But I'm sure many who are drawn to what I share are drawn in that reason in particular. So people are starting to realize what their true essence is. And once you remember your galactic core nature, you're starting to live it more and more because you're conscious of it, so it has the ability to permeate through you on all ways. So your body becomes this vessel of your attainment, so of who you truly are. On my path of this divine remembrance, I was always guided to share every step of this path so that those following along those similar lines within their own awakening and ascension would be rather I would say triggered, sparked up with this and the journey that I share, and find their own inner resonance. Because a divine lover does not teach. They don't need to teach. They have an essence that is the essence of a teacher, but they also have an essence of a student. But what is the main thing about them is they have fully remembered and integrated in their soul illumined presence who they really are. as a being of divine love. They have fully returned to their source presence, and they are ready to come out again, and they're ready to come into this particular time of the shift and the ascension on the planet, for those who are also ascending, to remember them, who they truly are, to kind of remind them, pardon me. So this is the path of the divine lover. So if people reference you as a teacher, that's only one tiny aspect of who you are. And when I went through these initiations in my own life, each one of them has brought me further and deeper into my true self, which was, I'm not just merely a guide, I'm not just here to teach, I'm not here to do, I'm not a writer, I'm not an author, nothing like that at all dropped away. And I remember how a few years back I got this automatic writing that says, you are a teacher, which means a way shower of divine love. It's who you are. And then every step led me closer to that. And I'm going to share a bit about the relationship journey that's possible during this on this path, but I wish to read you something that I wrote on a very special date with the activation of the 888 gateway, which this year was very potent for illumined unions, because every year the 88 gateway activates this infinite nature of our being, but this year it was particularly potent because of the 8th universal year we're now in. And also there was lots of streaming with this diamond light energy, which means also new children coming in that carry this frequency, and those of us who also are now embodying this essence, so that we can just be the pillar of this light, so that these children, which are already awakened now, they're gonna just migrate so easily, so effortlessly into their true radiant presence in their own path, because all they need is this seeded energy. So those of us who have come as predecessors to this which is now happening in mass have come for this in particular, and these children are all divine lovers per se. So I'm going to read you something I wrote, and as I finished this writing, which was very spontaneous, I didn't know, I just sat there, I didn't know what I'm going to write, was later shared with me that this is actually for my beloved oracle. As you know, I have 27 paintings. This is my own creation, and it's connected with my own soul blueprint number of the activation of that divine love beingness, which is 27 encodement. So for me, everything I'm guided comes through the essence of that number, which is just a code. In truth, it's an essence. It's an essence of my radiant, illumined presence. So this was when Venus started to travel her journey as beginning to rise as a morning star in Leo, and you know, this was the activation of the solar feminine. This means, you know, the solar is usually the masculine principle, the solar logos, and then feminine is that galactic, that which pulsates around it. So you need the Shiva, the Shakti, the feminine, the masculine. They're one essence, because in all life in creation that later started to fragment and have these divisions of the self, there was always union of these polarized opposites. And on this planet, because of those who are, you know, starting to see this, this is going to start to build up more and more until it gets in mass. This means that the solar feminine means the illumined feminine, which is awakened. She's seated by the masculine, and as the masculine principle does that, he's also embraced by this feminine. And the solar feminine actually means the union of the Christed radiant presence of the masculine feminine as one. It's how spirit shows me. So this is what I wrote, and this is actually for the cosmic journey of the beloved. It's my oracle, which will come out in divine timing. As you know, spirit always tells me when it's time to do anything. It means that the collective needs to be on that particular vibrational frequency, so I'm just following along those lines. So I don't know when it's going to be out, but hopefully, as always, in divine timing. So I'm going to read you, and then I'm going to start to share a bit about how this journey might look, and how you can recognize yourself as a being who's here to be a divine lover. The feminine awakens. She rises. She merges with the masculine principle as they make love into one in eternity. They activate each other and remember that the God and Goddess are one. In the beginning of creation there was only one, and through the great void it polarized into divine counterparts of creation, able to create the third energy aspect which expands the potentiality of source. As eons and eons passed, this continued, with a few souls returning back to the law of one and the true understanding of polarity principles, knowing themselves as divine gender in the expression of form, moving back into the zero space of infinite love potentiality. And so these remembered soul aspects danced together as unified couplings. As they remembered, life in creation began to illuminate. Life began to evolve in a new way. These aspects of Source held a very special place in the divinity of all, knowing themselves as illumined twin souls with the desire of assisting others to return to their divine remembrance, a source of true knowing and eternal belongings, the home so many souls still long for. They knew each themselves as fully whole and complete, knowing that each fragment of the journey is also whole and complete, that they are always unified simply by knowing themselves too, and willing it so. These illumined beings serve the law of one by sharing their prime longing of divine love, their true home, with the rest of creation, serving all life in creation to become illumined with the prime light of the one. They know themselves as divine perfection, and by coming into form, they serve to uplift all existing life forms and reminding the divine true beloveds of who they really are. They are cosmic beloveds, and this is their journey, their story, and legacy. May the cosmic journey of beloveds unfold for the greater good and God of all. So what does this mean? What this means is that these beings have fully returned to their state of how they were created as sovereign beings to further experience and seed all life in creation and contribute with their own essence. This means that they have an exact encoded memory, the blueprint of the prime essence of creation. So with this in mind, they have not just the aspect when they come into incarnation of fragmentation of souls and different journeys and lifetimes and experiences. They can have that, or they can imprint in those experiences, and you can read more about that in books from Dolores Cannon. But what they also have is the divine remembrance that is so strong of that which was prime, of that prime level of existence, of their true level of when they were first created. And that means they never abandon that. They always remember that union. And I'm going to share later what this means and how this can play out in the life of a being who's on the path of being a divine lover. But first of all, I just wish to share some of the things that are really important now for us as a collective as we move further into our ascension, because a lot of times I see people think and they believe that we're going to ascend by acquiring more information, by, having all these sorts of teachings, and maybe even gather teachings of all the great ages and, burst out as one great teaching. And we want more light, we want more information. We're like almost pursuing information. I've been talking about this before as well. But the true path of ascension happens when we activate the gateway of the cosmic heart, and this is what divine lovers are here to do. They're here to show their way. They're here to show just how to be this pure love and to always return to love, even when our human biological makeup sometimes prevents us to do so, and how easy it is to actually return to love, not just to solve things, to solve out problems, to constantly seek out more information that will help you. Because I see that lots of times people are seeking awareness before having an actual experience of love that opens a new gateway, that brings a new initiation, and then awareness comes. But in all my examples, and even people who were present with me in my life, they have realized and have seen how this works. Because a lot of times we have this idea, and a lot of it comes from the New Age movement, because it constantly convinces us that we create everything with our minds. Our minds are still very powerless in comparison to greater parts of ourselves, on a greater level of our being, which actually create for us. So as you know, sometimes you think you're doing something, you're manifesting something, you're uttering something, you're having those decrees and prayers and mantras. But in fact, you just have to be your true self with the core essence of your vibratory beingness. So this means that lots of times we expect to create with this lower mind, but it doesn't work. It's because there's a greater plan there for us, and divine lovers are here to show the way. So they're not here to teach, they're here to show the way to go within. Lots of times we say go within, be authentic, go within, but many people don't know how to go within. You say, okay, but how do I go within? It's the how-to aspect that divine lovers are here to share. So they're not necessarily about teaching techniques and lots of information and much knowledge. They won't benefit us until, as a human collective, we're in a certain level of awareness, it just won't do us any good. This happened in the previous ages. There was so much information, but the human collective wasn't ready, so there was falls and another fall and another fall. Let's say there was many agendas that came along with it. So a divine lover is there to show the way to return to love, that true love, which is love not just for one person, but that universal love of brotherhood, sisterhood, the white brotherhood that we actually all belong to. It's just we haven't returned to yet. And on our individual soul spark level. So what this means is that sometimes when we think, okay, I need more information, I need more understanding, I need to know why this is happening in my life, and you're seeking for all those answers to come. Well, a divine lover will come and they'll show you, just be and let love in. And when you surrender and love can enter you, then awareness will come. So it's always, when you think of the nature of spirit, soul, and then the persona aspect that the soul creates, that sometimes we say the thought was first, and then there's feelings coming through. But in truth, in our originality of the beingness and how we're actually structured as beings, it's not how it works. Because the spirit, that greatest part, the monadic presence of who we are, the first level is always pure knowing, that pure divine radiant knowing. And then knowing then translates to the soul level, and the soul level is the feeling. That's not the same as emotions, don't get me wrong. So when you think about lower thoughts and you say they generate feelings, no, they generate emotions. That's not the same. And emotions have a tendency to be in conflict with their true soul desires. They can be in conflicting energies, playing out as duality. So the first thing that when we really awaken and connected with our divinity, there's always the knowing, the feeling, and only then this descends to the lower parts of our beingness, of our human genetic makeup. So this means that we feel things first, and then we start to think and start to ponder and reflect. And then sometimes if we still have blockages in terms of what we're not yet allowing and receiving to just come through as the purity of who we truly are, there can be emotions and things coming out, or lower thought frequencies, and for us to cleanse that out. But when we truly return to being a divine lover, and I'm not saying that only those who have come here as to return to show the path to others, everybody can remember and become a divine lover themselves. So there is no separation at all. So don't get me wrong when I talk about this topic, because we are all divine lovers, remembering and returning back to the true home template, that frequency of our soul blueprint, as we were created as pure divine love. So when I talk about this, it's very simple. It just needs a few of the basic recognitions. Sometimes when I'm encountering people and I see how they think, I see that a lot of their thoughts actually don't originate from their true authentic self. So these thoughts can come as being manipulated or sold to them by the outside world, by religion, by their families, by ancestral lineages that had a certain stories that were they were revealing around themselves, basically. And then the New Age movement, which also has a lot of false concepts. So let's say they give you 90% of the truth, well, the 10% is a bit off. But you take all of it and you can't process it because the awareness level is not yet that high, which means the level of love is not yet that potentialized. So because of that, there can be these distortions in how humans think, and because of these distortions, they cannot receive so much love. So I know not everybody is willing to hear that, but there was, with this huge plan. The plan was put in motion for these divine lovers to return, to set these foundations, to move beyond just what is information and knowledge, and to show that there first needs to be an opening of love. I have lots of knowledge, but I've learned in my life it's not even important until humans get to a certain level. I cannot share it because it doesn't do any good. What can you do with the knowledge that you cannot yet process within your human genetic makeup? You can't. It's like excess garbage and that level, because everything is relative. So let's say just the mere level of knowledge that you hold, and for me, I've realized, especially this summer, there was a great pouring out of this knowing that I can have so much knowledge, but it doesn't do any good. if I'm just not living what I'm meant to live at this time, which is to be a divine lover, a way shower, teacher of divine love, whatever you may wish to call it, it's not important. But it's about the frequency of this angelic self-attainment level, which just makes you want to make love to all life, give love so unconditionally, so purely, that sometimes humans cannot receive so much love. It can overwhelm them. It can be too much for them because their heart is not yet that open to receive so much, or they have these projections or feelings of not being so worthy and not deserving. And sometimes people even say to me, I can't even imagine with my man, how could this being, or how could they love me, or how could that be? They have all these blockages, this self-imposed or externally imposed beliefs coming at them. So they cannot receive so much love. So the first step in the human movement towards evolution in this ascension is to activate and generate more love, to become the pure vessel for this love. And then we're going to get to the next stage, which is going to be receiving information and knowledge on that level. Because I see lots of people in the New Age, they want to have powers, they want to have this great psychic abilities and the third eye opening, and everybody wants to fly and be telepathic fully and all of that. But this cannot happen before you open your cosmic heart. If it happens before, there will be lots of misunderstanding, and there will be projection of false illusion of power and not knowing what to do with it. Let's say you have a gift, but you don't know what to do with it. So you're just there standing, you're looking at it, and you don't know what to do with it. That's why love is always first. That love opens the gateway to the creativity. Light enters, the feminine, the womb embraces the masculine. Together they create the divine child, which means new projects, new ideas for humanity, new templates of living, of existence, all of this. And recently someone I know has shared, I think on Instagram, it's like, why does everybody talk about sacred Shakti, Shakti, Shakti? What about Shiva? Where's that? And it's true. Because a lot of this masculine energy was suppressed, this goddess coming out. But the goddess needs to make love with the God aspect. They're both one. They always have been. The El and Ashera, the twin soul of all, the union of all unions, if you think of it like that. But when you think about why this was so enigmatic in the past, and why there was so much of even miserable stories of love, when in the ancient times you have many of these stories that ended up tragically, like say Romeo and Juliet, Tristan and Isolde. I mean, so many of these couples, if you read those books, for example, the books of love by Kathleen McGovern and the 3 books she wrote until now, they all have these examples of couples that either couldn't be together, somehow their true sacred union didn't match what they were really supposed to be coupled with, they were supposed to be coupled with someone else. It's because there was not such level of maturity so they could handle it and the collective, the outside was so opposing this, so they couldn't even, they'd be in that, but they were seeding that. And when we think about the nature of the purpose of Joshua and Magdalene, they were the divine coupling, and they were seeding this. So many people saw Jesus as the teacher who will bring salvation and whatnot, but in true nature, Jesus' purpose was just as anybody else's purpose, except he did it in his own unique way, which is how it is. His purpose was love, and to teach about holy sacred union, hieros gamos, the nature of the feminine masculine coming together. That's why they have hidden the Magdalene aspect of his journey. So it's like his journey was, his solemn journey was just Jesus. But there was also Mary, the Magdalene. Together they can create this diamond light frequency and set up this divine triangulation, this wholeness, this perfection also in the physical, because we have this distortion in our mind that this is not possible. We always think of it like something that's so ethereal it cannot happen in the physical. Of course, if you can't handle it, if you don't have awareness about it. But when you start to understand your true nature, how you were first created, then why wouldn't you deserve it? You deserve it by becoming it, by remembering it. So in truth, like I said, we all have the same purpose within many of the variations of forms and expressions of creation. So we are all within the purpose to be love embodied, to be divine love. How we do it, what we do, everything we experiment and try in the way of getting there is going to be varied. It's going to vary. It's going to be different and unique, which is beautiful. That's why we have this variation of creation and fragmentation of source into many different aspects of itself. So when you think about the nature of masters and whatever they taught because they were illumined through the nature of their true Christed spark, which is feminine, masculine essence as one in radiance. So like I said, this doesn't mean now people have to be physically coupled. Like, you know, there was a story Joshua passed before Magdalene, and when he, you know, completed his part of the service, she still continued and did many writings, and she was supposed to hide certain things, and they started certain things there around creating a Christed church, the real church of the truth. And there was many such things. And this means that when you are unified from within, when you know your spark, when you know your presence, you live your purpose, because it's a mutual purpose, it's a unified purpose. And everybody who remembers then starts to gently step on this path. And sometimes it doesn't just happen overnight. And I'm going to now share on this note with the possibilities and the examples of what it is to be on this path of being a divine lover. So for me, in my life, personally, I have experienced many relationships. There was so much of my path that was associated with relating to another. The other part of me was being solitary, being hermit, being, you know, this vertically aligned, being with spirit and then sharing with the others what I received. But there's also the horizontal part that my soul needs to develop. And this, for me, the easiest flow of that comes through relating with another. And as I've grown through these relations, I've noticed that each one of them has been preparing me on this path of living an illumined union. But there are a few steps and a few traps even when you're in this path, because you have such a strong remembrance of what it is, that in the beginning, when you're not yet that awake and present within what is, and being a neutral sovereign observer, you can project. There's a lot of your desires and longing that you hold on a deep level that you can project to another person. And I've shared this before in many of my twin soul videos, that sometimes people mistake the other person for being their ultimate and their twin flame, whatever, because they have such a strong awakening of their beloved presence that when they meet another, they instantly recognize them as the mirror. But they maybe only vibrationally in their makeup represent partially that essence, because they're meant to awaken a part of that essence within you. For me, every relationship on my path, it's almost like it unlocked a specific multidimensional part of that illumined presence, which is always whole and unified. So they were preparations of steps towards that union, which is already destined in a way, because it already is, because I've already returned to it. And then you just come and you reunite. So it's almost like Spirit showed me once, you can see it through the representation of, and I've shared this with you before, the X. So you have the masculine, the blade, the feminine, the chalice. When they meet together, they create an X figure. But you can also see it when they become the essence of polarization and creation. From the one unified field, they start to divide and go up. So you kind of get this Y figure. But when they move out and when they reunite, they start to come back. And what happens now is from this, they start to form again one neutral path. So you can see it like a Y turned upside down. So you get like this, moving on one same path. And when you know this, you know that this is a path to further serve, improve the illumination of the whole, assisting. And for me, it's always been like, I knew that the person was not yet the person that would carry this same vibrational sameness, because their path was different, their path varied. And a lot of the times I saw that the person was, you know, maybe so beautiful, and I loved them and I appreciated so much, and they were beneficial for my journey. But in many ways, their path didn't match mine. And so when you on this path sometimes can confuse this, you will start to override the other person, and you're going to forget about the real nature of your relationship, which is just to kind of have something that your mind won't always understand. So our souls have these contracts in order to prepare us, to physically make us ready. A lot of times we feel, oh, I'm ready for this. Come on, give it, universe. That's what we say. But our readiness really comes through on all levels: emotionally stable, physically stable, mentally. I mean, until you really are the forge, you forge yourself into this fortress of divine presence, and you really live that on all levels. And that's why these beings come and they assist you with this, and you assist them as well. And they will serve you and you serve them as well. So I can tell you that sometimes people say, wow, when you love just someone, you're only devoted to them. And just recently I was reading in Salvador Kelly's book, which is called Soul Integration. I really recommend the chapter on relationships in his book, Soul Integration, it's called. Very beautiful, because it references all of the relationships from karmic to twin soul, soulmate, tantric, all of that. It's really nicely written. And he shares on this, I mean, the higher aspects share that. In the higher planes, it's not always like we perceive it as, okay, just with one person. How I perceive it is, of course, there needs to be devotion. You know your counterpart, you kind of feel this destined union, because there needs to be focus in what we're creating, and triangulation happens between the two. And on this human level, it's how it is, because we can really, kind of juggle one person. If we have, let's say, many people at the same time, like polyamory, it's how it's called, then there's a lot of these jealous feelings and things that are just not really for the greater good of all. But in the higher planes, there's transcendence of that. So when they merge, let's maybe say tantrically, but for the greater benefit of the group, and they can create mass storage of energy that will create something. So when you come to this level of illumination, everything begins to be created for the greater good. It's not you encounter someone and you come together and they're going to be saying, I'm going to utilize this beautiful force of unity just for myself and for my own personal growth. Illumined unions are when your growth is always for the growth of all. It's for illumination of all beings. It's to invite brothers and sisters back home to their true essence. And this is who we are. I am a divine lover, and this is my path. It's always been my path. Even since I was a little girl, I had these feelings and impressions, and I couldn't understand it because I was just a small child at that time. But it's when you're in this path, your soul speaks to you so strongly, because sometimes it's not easy to be in this path. You'll have very intense feelings many times, because you'll have great divine memory. And memory sometimes can bring, in this world of, such density, can bring a feeling of isolation, of not belonging, of feeling trapped sometimes, of missing your brothers and sisters and being reunited with soul family aspect. But we need this part to evolve, to grow stronger in the physical, to transform the physical vehicle, and to show the human counterpart of the brotherhood and sisterhood of all beingness how it is to return back. And because of that, we need to go through the same things and same initiations all together. It's not karmic. It's not something that, it's negative. It's just there because it needs to be there. And when you go through these relationships, you will see that each one of them is lifting you higher. It's showing you a new mirror. It's like you're growing and you're becoming more and more unconditional. It's what I've noticed when I took like this red fine line and I've looked at this, the great pattern layout. I saw, wow, look at me there and look at me now. This was beautiful. And that's what exactly needed to happen. So when I mentioned before this polyamorous aspect is what someone would say, wow, you had many relations, but how does this fit into just being with just the one? It's because, like they say in the book, on greater levels, there's enough love for everybody. And you can share love with many beings, and every being that comes your path, you love them. It doesn't mean necessarily you will be with them in terms of this lifetime, what you're going to be creating, or you're returning home. You're returning home with your true counterpart when you're ready and when this is your path. But it's not that now you're being unfaithful to your true beloved. That's not true, because your true beloved, in truth, also is in all, because we're one unified being. One, but also unique, and experiencing and having these different variations of creation. So when you think of it this way, it's beautiful. And when you have relationships and you can't understand always why is it this way, just know that it's happening for the greater good. It's happening for your activation, for your advancement, to ready you, to prepare you. Many times it's like this, because in the past, if these beings met and love was so strong and they couldn't handle it, so they usually eloped or escaped or it never worked, these unions are actually meant to illuminate the whole. So if you're not ready and you're looking to escape or to not serve and just want to do it for yourself, then you're not really ready. Because when it is true path of the divine lover, it means you'll need to be ready on all levels. To unify, to move beyond separation and to serve with that unification within you, and to continue to refine your focus, to refine your humanness, to enter a tantric union that will be so intense. And with that energy lifting off, you will put immense ripples and waves on the planet. It's how it is, it's how I'm being shown, and it's how I always knew. But we have this perception of time, how it needs to happen, and a lot of beings, because of that, they set this timeline. Okay, by this deadline, twin flames on this planet will meet, and it's very imposed. It's not unconditional, because this true growth of illumined unions occurs through divinity, through divine laws, not through human perceptions of time, how it's supposed to happen. So beings on a greater level under divine cosmic assistance, which are one with us, they actually see everything as this great layout, like this intertwining of energies coming together and more getting closer, from the extended soul families to the closer soul families, to our soulmates, and to our true twin soul nature of who we are. And that's it. So it's very simple. It's very simple, and you will recognize yourself, because your path will be so full of just wanting to be loved, to share love. You know, in my journey, many times I've seen people want knowledge from you, or they want more understanding from you, but in the end they get love, and they're so happy. And this love reminds them of who they truly are. And it's the love that matters. So I've been thinking about this weekend, and I've been doing a beautiful mountain climb with this companion I met. And we just had a lot of discussions on this topic. It was beautiful, because we both came closer into this activation. And we were just talking about this, how it's amazing, you know, now when this is happening. And when we have awareness of what's happening, then it even grows. And it's almost like every time there's an important either gateway or something, you're there to bridge that energy. So I remember on the 888 portal, I was together with this person, and then as well when Mars and Venus began to be conjunct, and it was the moon and the sun, and even we woke up on the top of the highest mountain there in our Alps, one of the tallest ones. And we woke up and the sun was in one direction and the moon was still visible. It was beautiful. It was like we were sitting in between the feminine and masculine, like this balance. And all this time I was receiving these number encoded messages, which were amazing, because Venus and Mars were conjunct in 14 degrees of Leo. And I had a dream while being in that sacred space with that person of 14 being reflected in the mirror being 41. So there were reflections of each other. And at 14 in Tarot is temperance. And many times it's drawn as the yin and yang coming together and having the state of true balance. And this is the message I've been receiving throughout the whole of August. And something really deep is happening. But let's just say that it will influence us on the times to come. It's not just something happens right here, right now, on this date. It's the seeding of energy, because the planetary light grid is now ready. There's new incoming souls that already carry this. There's those of us who are predecessors of this, which is now happening in mass. And there's a lot of those who are also beginning to step on this path, being a divine lover. So there's beautiful things happening. And lately I've been nothing but just smiling and being so filled with love. I've been noticing how I became so unconditional, non-controlling, that I don't know, I just see how it's important to just continue to love. It's not just, you know, climbing higher, 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 but it's coming down into our horizontal aspect of merging with the soul aspects, of bringing that unification of our soul, really being reflective in relationships and see what each one is bringing to us on the path of being a divine lover. And then see how we can assist the whole through that. It's not something that's just for us, because we're all part of this. We always were. We were created simultaneously. It was just, you know, what came out as all these beautiful waves and ripples, and yet we're also one. So I hope this video in a way helped you to see some of your own you know, musings and stories. But what I can tell you is that I realized that my journey is moving more towards just loving, just being this love. And it's not so much how I share what I share, because words are words. You know, you can have so much knowledge, but if someone's not processing it internally from themselves, I didn't do anything. But by loving someone, by showing this love, how quickly we can return to love, even when our mind goes like this, then we can open such gateways. And I've had this with every person physically coming in my path. They've had that experience with me, and in the end, they were just so lifted up. Sometimes you require lots of patience on this path. Sometimes you're going to have to wait for the person to vibrationally be lifted up, because your path is not just for you, for your growth. Remember, as a divine lover, you came here for the growth of others as well, because you've already remembered. You're already an illumined one. So it's not about you. If you're on a path of being a divine lover, or you awaken to that and you're also starting to walk that path, it's starting to be ignited in your consciousness, that it never has been just about you. It's always been about the awakening and integration of the whole. Brothers and sisters, we're all one, and this is what we're doing. We're calling each other home by just being ourselves in our true nature. And to love has never been more important than now. Remember, Venus and Mars? They're really going to set the stage for what awaits in our ascension. So cherish all your relationships. See the value. Don't try to project onto them what they are, but see what they brought for you. When you open a new gateway, a floodgate of love, then see the awareness that will come through. And then there will be lots of aha moments. There'll be lots of neutrality within what you're sharing with another, so you can gently move on your path without projecting onto the other what you want them to be. Because you're ready, but maybe they're not. Well, maybe they're not. You know, that's it. Beautiful. Cherish yourself. Truly remember who you truly are. We're all sparks of divine love. We're here to be love, incarnate. We're here to experience love in myriad ways and forms. So I hope this was helpful. As always, so much love, wisdom, and power. And that's it for today. I'm going to see you very soon in the next update. So stay connected. Bye-bye.